The humans, the Asari, the Turians and Solarians, the Krogan, the Quarians, the Hanar, the Volus, the Elcor, the Drell, the Batarians, and Vorcha. Welcome to Triple Click, where we get the Rachni to you. We're talking about the new re-release of Mass Effect today, and we've got a lot of Reapers to Biotic implant. The Cerberus is in the Veil, and the Relays in the Citadels, so grab your Omni tool and let's Skillian Verge. I'm Kirk Hamilton.
I'm Maddy Myers.
And I'm Jason Trier, and we are back once again.
Yeah, we are.
For another podcast.
Back.
Guys, you want to hear something crazy?
Always.
This weekend, my wife Amanda and I went out to eat indoors for the first time in a year and 3 months? A year and 3 months,
crazy.
something like that. And it was weird. We're sitting there like without masks on. Nobody's wearing a mask. Like people are eating and enjoying themselves. It just felt like life was back to normal for a while. I went to the gym that same day, and nobody was wearing a mask there. It's all very strange. It's all been very strange being in this like post-vaccinated world.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. I've had that
really
feeling
weird.
as well. All right. Well, we're a totally listener-supported show. We love you all for supporting us, and you can find out more about supporting us at MaximumFun.org/join. Thanks to everybody who joined during Max Fun Drive 2021. And we have a little late Max Fun Drive bonus coming to you all this coming Monday at the end of the month. We already recorded this actually with the besties and my brother and me's Justin McElroy as a guest. We talked about Portal, did a whole Portal Beans cast, and it was super fun. That game is really, really, really fun to talk about. We all replayed it. That's also a really good game. Mm-hmm. But anyways, go to MaximumFun.org/join to become a member. And thanks so much to all of our members. And speaking of games from 2007.
Great segue.
Beautiful.
Thank you. I'm proud of it. We're going to be talking about a game series that started in 2007 on this episode, and geez, then it just kind of went from there, and then it really never ended because Mass Effect never really ended, even though
they'll never stop Mass Effect. It was put on ice for a couple of years, but it has since been pulled out of cryogenic freezing. It was sent in one of those chambers like in Andromeda, like on the ship, and then it woke up.
So we're going to be talking about the Mass Effect Legendary Edition, the Mass Effect trilogy that was recently re-released by Electronic Arts. On this episode, it's going to be a triple play, and I'm driving this episode, and I made some notes, but I feel like everybody has had so many opinions about Mass Effect over the years. I know the three of us all have. We've all been replaying it. I beat Mass Effect 1 already. I kind of just blasted through it on casual and got up to Mass Effect 2. I have so many thoughts. I want to talk to you both about this series for like 10 hours, but we're gonna make a single episode do, I suppose. But I guess to start with, how far are you both in this game, and just what are you thinking of it? Jason, you can go first, since I always call on Maddie to go first. Jason,
thank you. What a kind little surprise. So I played all these games when they each came out, and I really liked them. I've always liked BioWare games. I'm more of a fantasy guy than a sci-fi guy, so like Mass Effect didn't resonate with me quite as much as like Baldur's Gate or even Dragon Age, but I always liked them, and replaying the first game, especially, it's easy to see why this series has resonated with so many people, because there's so much good stuff in there, and so much stuff that's like aged super well. The writing and the setting and the way that it slowly introduces stuff to you, but also quickly it feels it's very well paced in terms of like throwing proper nouns at you and throwing lore and terminology, and you're even kind of introduced to the alien races in a gradual way, so you can get to know like, oh, okay, this is a Krogan, these are the Geth, et cetera, and the names are all really good. Like, the word, when you hear the word Geth, that's like evil robots. When you hear the word Krogan, that's like a big lumbering something or another, right? It's aged really well, I think. I mean, the combat obviously is not great. I played with the first Mass Effect. I played up to I got Liara, and then I'm up to Nevaria, not super far, a couple hours in, and then I skipped ahead to Mass Effect 2 just because I wanted to compare and contrast. And Mass Effect 2, you jump in and immediately it's like, whoa, the combat in this game is so much better and more modern feeling. With the first game, I picked the class where you're a distant shooter, a distant fighter, and so I've been using the sniper rifle. And when you use the sniper rifle on enemies in the first game, like sometimes their health bar doesn't even pop up because you're too far away from them.
Which is funny because they've improved the sniper rifles significantly from how it was. It was real bad when that game first came out.
Yeah, I don't even remember. I don't even remember how bad it was in the first game. But it's in general, it's a really good remaster. I'm playing on PC. It all runs really smoothly and looks good and sounds good. And most of everything is held up except for the combat in ME1. And then you start 2 and it's like, man, this is so much better in so many ways. And so I want to spend a little bit more time replaying 2 because that is a game that I remember being like really the standout, the masterpiece in terms of like just the character development and the way that it's all set up, and having Martin Sheen there to lecture you Jed Bartlett style about Cerberus. He's like, man, we have to you see both sides of this universe have some good ideas, and so and yeah, I mean it's quite a series. It's quite a space opera, I will say.
Nice. Maddy, how are you finding it?
I'm loving it. I'm about an hour away from the end. If I had just gone to bed a little later last night, I would have beaten Mass Effect 1. And I thought about it, but I went to bed instead of that.
That was wise.
I played Mass Effect 1 in 2007, but I have kind of dreamlike memories of it. Like every now and then I'd be like, oh yeah, this part. And then more proper nouns or whatever plot points would be thrown at me. And I'd be like, wow, I don't remember any of this at all. And I'm sure that will also happen with Mass Effect 2 and 3 when I get to them. Although at that point, we're at least getting further in time. And the difference with those two games as well is that I reviewed those games. So I was still in college when the first Mass Effect came out. I was an intern at the Phoenix, but I wasn't reviewing games yet. So I just played Mass Effect 1 in a more casual way, and insofar as, you play a game that you're not taking notes on to review, but I have much stronger memories of the second and third games. So in that way, it was kind of fun to replay it. And also, I feel like I'm a completely different person than I was 14 years ago, and I don't feel the same way about all the characters. Not in a bad way. I still really enjoy the game. There's certain parts of it that I'm just like, wow, this definitely hits me differently now than it did back then. Like, I used to think that Garrus was the coolest character in the world, and he still is. Like, his voice actor, I don't know who it is, but he has this real Jeremy Irons thing going on. And I romanced Garrus the first time I played the game. This time I'm romancing Liara because I'm trying to change it up. So Garrus is like an ex-cop who's a loose cannon, and all of his anecdotes about that, I was just like, I don't know about this. Like, I'm playing this now. I'm like, I don't know if that's that cool, Garrus. I don't know if maybe you should be torturing people you're interrogating. Maybe you shouldn't do that, buddy. That seems kind of bad. I don't know. But like, he's always in the right. He's always like, that's kind of the thing about this series is that you are also Superwoman. You are always in the right as well. I mean, we can talk about that more when we describe what these games are actually about, but they're kind of like Star Trek, but if Captain Picard were like a super cop who was in control of the entire galaxy and like could decide the fate of it and also made the right decisions every step of the way.
Yeah, I want to get into the whole Star Trek of it all and like where this series fell in the sort of also in the evolution of Star Trek and in sci-fi on TV specifically, because I think this series has a lot in common with sci-fi TV. We can get to that maybe. Because, yeah, I mean, I guess I should recap for everybody. Like, I mean, you play Commander Shepard. You're this person who is essentially elevated to be, a super cop. Like, you don't have any rules. You become a Spectre in the first game. And then in each game, you're either reinstated as a Spectre, or you can actually tell them to screw off in the second game and just be, a rogue badass. But you're always kind of the leader of an army or an elite team that's trying to save everyone, while like people won't listen to you about the true threat, and you're trying to fight off these aliens called the Reapers. And we're not going to do a whole lore explainer, though I wrote a whole lore explainer for this game for Kotaku back in the day, and I know my Elcor from my Hanar, but I agree with you, Maddy, that this game hits me differently now when I'm playing it, and I also you were mentioning how like where you were in your career when you played the first game. So each of these three games, Mass Effect 1, Mass Effect 2, and Mass Effect 3, they each came out at different points in my career with regard to video games in a way that really hit me as I was replaying Mass Effect 1. Mass Effect 1 was 2007, which I've mentioned before is the year that I got back into video games, but I was still like teaching jazz at a high school and not working in video games at all, and I just totally played. I binged it in a weekend, and I remember just being like, this is so cool that a game is like this, like that I get to play this like sci-fi movie video game. And then Mass Effect 2 was 2010, which was like right when I was getting into writing about games. I think I just started at Paste as the games editor. So it was shortly before I started at Kotaku.
The game that launched a billion blogs.
Yeah, there was a lot to say about that game. And then in 2012, Mass Effect 3 is when I was already at Kotaku, and I was like very aware then of that game and like the press buildup. I remember going to a preview event for that game at E3, and then of course the like controversy after it came out, and all these like sort of think pieces that were written about the ending, and then the subsequent way that BioWare changed it. So it's like each game is at a different point in my career, and now Legendary Edition is out, and I'm like not a games journalist anymore, and I can just sort of play through all three of them, which I'm really excited to do. So yeah, then I guess just really quickly, for my part, I started Mass Effect 1 and was like, oh, maybe I'll just play a little bit of this. We'll see how it goes. And then immediately was like, oh my God, I'm going to play this entire game. A lot of that sense memory for me is the music. Jack Wall and Sam Hewlett composed the music for the first game with some other composers as well. But that I'm going to go ahead and say that Mass Effect 1 has one of the top 5 greatest opening main menu themes of all time. It's called Vigil, is the piece of music, and here's a fun fact for people listening that I will just tell people that I wrote a Kotaku post about this, but this is a fun thing to listen for if you're playing this trilogy. In Mass Effect 3, when you're standing on the bridge of the Normandy, like in the main room, the engine vibrations, in the engine vibrations, you can hear the pitches of Vigil like playing out very subtly behind the vibration on the engine. And I was sitting there playing this game and thought I was hallucinating when Mass Effect 3 came out. And then I was like, I am not hallucinating. I was like, it's there. That's it. And it was like those same chords. Ba-na-na-na-na-na. Like it like moves through those notes. And I wrote about it, and then one of the composers or someone at BioWare confirmed it. They were like, oh my God, I'm so glad someone finally noticed this. Like, this is for real. Bing! Kirk from the future here. I went back and checked out that post. It was actually confirmed in the comments by Rob Blake, who at the time was the audio lead for Mass Effect. He commented on the post to be like, hey, yeah, that was what it was. The post has been mangled by the ravages of time, but the audio and the video that I captured is still there, so I'm actually going to play a clip of that, and I want you to listen for it. You just heard Vigil playing in the podcast, and now listen, you can just hear it kind of subtly nestling its way into the hum of the engines. It's so freaking cool. So like I said, it's subtle, but right now that F is playing, doo, and you can hear it kind of resolve down to the E. Doo. You hear it? And now it goes down to that D. Doo. It's subtle, but easier to hear when the game is paused. When you unpause it, it's still there, it's just harder to hear. Hear it still? Doo. See, I just wanted to share that because I think it's really cool. Blake said they hit a lot of stuff like that throughout Mass Effect 2 and 3, so keep your ears out if you're playing the games. All right, back to the show. Bing!
Wow.
Well, of course, only Kirk Hamilton would notice it. He have the perfect pitch.
I don't always notice things like that, but I was proud of myself for noticing that, and it is a fun thing to keep an ear out for if the two of you play it. So this music was the thing that made me play it. And then like a few hours in, I was kind of like, wow, this game is pretty tedious a lot of the time. Like when you're really just playing it. And I kicked it down to casual difficulty after a couple hours.
I did too.
And then just blasted my way through it. It took me like less than 10 hours. That is the way to play. I'm going to actually suggest it is a good way to go because you can finish the game very quickly. Like, it's funny, like when you're at Novaria, you're only a few main story missions from the end of the game. You can do a few side things, but it's really just like Novaria, a couple other places, then Vermeer opens up, and that's like the big showdown.
Right, that's the big, yeah.
Yeah, which will be, and we know some people are playing this game for the first time, so we're not going to get into super specifics. There's no reason to.
Yeah, we'll avoid spoilers. But this was, I mean, we should talk about that choice, because I think that choice, with it being really vague, this is a game that really promised. So BioWare back in the day, I don't know how many people like were following gaming news and following the gaming industry really closely back then, but BioWare was back in the early 2000s to mid 2000s, BioWare was really one of the only, if not the only, company that was doing these big story-driven RPGs with choices that had impact on the story. And that was kind of like an unprecedented thing back in the day. And we saw some of it. We saw like early bits and pieces of it with the Infinity Engine games back in the day on PC, and then more of it with KOTOR, and then really Mass Effect was the first game that came out and was like...
Don't forget Jade Empire. We are not a podcast that erases Jade Empire. Good game.
But Mass Effect 1 really like gave you these choices that would really impact the story in a way that most games would not dare do, because most games would not dare ask you to choose like who to sacrifice and like permanently lose from your party for the rest of the game, which is a choice in this game. I won't spoil the details, but that's a choice in this game, and that was really mind-blowing back then. The other thing that this game really pioneered that I think is worth noting, because it's kind of quaint to look back on now, is the concept of a dialogue wheel, where it's a wheel, and so it's easy to kind of select options as opposed to just line after line after line, which is what most text-based RPGs like with dialogue, branching dialogue, let you choose from. But also that the options you would choose from weren't actually what you said. They were just kind of the gist of what you said. And today that's super common. You see that in a bazillion games. But Mass Effect, as far as I can remember, was the first game to really do this. Certainly the first BioWare game to do this. Before Mass Effect, you would choose a line of dialogue and then your character would say that. But because Mass Effect was like full production values, voice acting, they didn't want to have to like go through the tedium of you reading a line and then seeing it out loud. So instead you choose the gist of the line and then they read it out loud, which is a brilliant way to kind of solve that problem, and I think is really cool even today.
Yeah, it's brilliant, though it's also, it can go wrong a lot of the time. I think there's been a lot of really interesting takes on, for example, Fallout 4, which tried to do the same thing and failed.
Fallout 4, yeah.
So it does take good writing. Like, you need to have good synopses, and usually Mass Effects are good. There's also just a nice little... For all the terrible UI in this game, which there is just so much, especially in the first game, is just incredible. Like how bad every interface element is. I think that the way that they implement, I guess this is just UX, not UI, but the way they implement the dialogue where you can pick what you're going to say next while the person is still talking, and it's a little more like you're like pointing to lines in the script for the actor to say, which then, you know, your shepherd will say the line, like, is usually in a natural flow of conversation that the loading sometimes gets in the way and there's like a weird pause. But, you know, like, that's the idea. I think that's also like a cool implementation.
Yeah. It's the to your point about the UI, I was thinking, so in the first game, the weapons are all just like Avenger and Phoenix or whatever, these weird generic names.
Don't even get me started.
You can't even in the radial where you select weapons, you can't even see what they do, and when you're picking up new weapons, it's all just a big mess. It actually reminded me of a game that would come out a few years later called Dragon Age 2, where one of my big bugbears of that game was that all of the equipment was like called things like ring, and you would just have to check it to see what it did. It was all just ring and necklace and stuff.
There's no good way to sort equipment, right? Like you just have to do it manually every single time. It's
or you can just
annoying.
Completely ignore inventory, which is the actual way to play the game.
Yeah, you just ignore it. Yeah, I think Kirk, that's a good idea, and maybe I'll go revisit it. I was enjoying starting 2, but maybe I'll revisit one on casual difficulty and enjoy it more.
It's still tedious though, even with the casual difficulty, just because of the way that the game is designed. Like,
the Mako driving is tedious.
Like there's the Mako. I pronounce it Mako, but I guess I don't know how that vehicle is pronounced. But it's the infamous vehicle in the game, the truck that you drive around on planet surfaces. I actually don't mind that so much, but I'm playing this game on PC. The first time I played it on Xbox, so that's already a big difference. And controlling the Mako with WASD is fine for me, at least. I don't mind it. I more feel like the tedium comes into play with like just quests where you need to walk down a really long hallway and press one button and then walk all the way back to talk to one person about one thing, and then walk to another location that's quite far away and do one thing there and then walk back. There's a lot of that in Mass Effect.
So yes, it's just a half-baked and tedious game, I have to say. And I think that actually all that tedium, which you just perfectly described. Like almost every quest objective is like walk to the end of this room and press a button.
Yes.
Every side quest environment is identical. There's been much said about all of this. And also just the way that every story mission has an obligatory like corridor that you just drive the car down for like 10 minutes shooting at turrets. And it's just like, especially on like it's trivial on easy, but it makes it more clear just how kind of thin so much of the game is, which I think actually emphasizes how strong the strengths are, because this game made this huge impact the minute it came out, and everyone was like obsessed with all these characters in this story, and it was this huge hit, and you know, it like paved the way for this really big budget amazing sequel. And it's purely just on the strength of like the story and the world, the music. I think the music is like a huge, really like can't say enough about how much I think the music did to like cast the game's spell. But it's all that stuff that when you really play the game, you're like, okay, this is BioWare. They'd kind of never made a console game like this before. They clearly didn't know how to make a shooter. They like, didn't have people on staff who were good at shooters. They weren't good at like controller interfaces. The way that like the things that some buttons do and other buttons don't do on the controller are just totally demented when you're like when you're used to playing modern games. But then it's fine because the strengths are so good. And also the last act of Mass Effect 1 is just incredible. Like I remember finishing it and then just playing it again. I was like, oh my gosh, like this is so much stronger than a lot of the rest of the game. Like once you get back to the Citadel and like the whole final stuff is going down, really, really cool. And then, for me anyways, it was so worth playing through the game because I could make that jump into Mass Effect 2. And I was like, this is the whole reason I'm doing this, is I want to experience again the feeling that I had playing the first hour of Mass Effect 2, which one of the most like exciting beginnings to a game. Like the beginning of that game is just like gangbusters. Mm-hmm. And it was so cool playing it and seeing what happens when you just have way more people, clearly way more money and time and like resources. Everything about it is like pumped up. It's not just the combat. It's like the writing, the lighting, the graphics, the characters, the voice actors. You've got Martin Sheen and what's her name from Chuck, and then the guy Saul Ty from Battlestar Galactica, and Carrie Ann Moss, and like all these famous great actors. And like it's just the way that it jacks itself up for Mass Effect 2 is amazing. And I'm looking forward to playing Mass Effect 2 for like ever. I'm going to do everything in that game, I think.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
awesome.
And the combat is really so striking. Like you get in and it's like, oh my god, there's ammo now, so you don't have to worry about your weapon freaking overheating all the time, which is such a pain in the ass. And like, wow, it actually feels like you're hitting the enemies and you're not just kind of like shooting blobs and like watching a reticle kind of look weird. Yeah, it's definitely striking.
Yeah, and there's like the wheel for your abilities, right? Instead of, I haven't even gotten to Mass Effect 2 yet, but I still remember that the controls for controlling your special abilities are just significantly easier to use than in this version, where it's like you press shift and then you select something. Like it's so dumb.
Such a mess. Like you can
but
only.
I don't care because I loved it.
Maddy, you should play with a controller on PC. That's what I've been doing, and it's way better.
I mean, okay, but I'm enjoying the sniper rifle finally being good and just clicking on heads.
It's not better with a controller because with a controller you can still only hotkey one ability of this like huge weird wheel of abilities that you have, and like one of them is just an ability that makes your gun work. It's like, you know, the one it's like gun marksman or whatever, and it just makes your gun good for like 5 seconds. And so I'm always like having to pause the game. What's Mass Effect 2, it's been interesting playing it right after Mass Effect 1 in a lot of ways, like just so interesting. Like people could skip straight to Mass Effect 2 if they don't have time, like that would be fine, especially because they included the Genesis comic they did with Dark Horse, which is super cool. I loved that comic. I think it was like only in the PlayStation 3 version of Mass Effect 2 at first, but now everyone can finally see it and it's really good. And you can like make all the choices from Mass Effect 1 if you want, but like playing the game right afterward, it's like, it's interesting if you're interested in video games. Like a thing they change is that you don't have cooldowns on individual abilities. You just have one cooldown. So like you'll use a biotic ability and then you just have a cooldown time that's a few seconds, and that little thing around your reticle, it's like a ring that goes open, and then once it's closed, boom, you can do your ability again. So I'm playing Mass Effect 2. I switched classes to be the Vanguard, which is the most fun class, I think, in Mass Effect 2, where your special ability is that you do this charge. You like warp through the wall and just blast into people, like, and you do all this most damage and like knock them back, and then you have a shotgun and you can just shoot people. So it's like, it's a thing that would never ever work in Mass Effect 1 at all, even though that class exists. They just completely changed it. And because of the way that abilities work, you can regularly just charge your way around the field, and it's so fun. Like it's actually fun to play, where in Mass Effect 1, it's just totally bizarre. Like the artificial intelligence in Mass Effect 1, the way those enemies will just run at you, like what is going on? It's just so weird.
Your teammates don't help you at all. I mean, I thought that was the AI that I thought you were going to talk about, is just the fact that you're going to have to carry them around. I was doing that mission where you have to try to not kill all of the villagers. There's like 16 villagers that you need to not kill. And I was on the last one, and Rex just killed the villager. And I was like, dude, why? Rex. And so it's like 15 villagers survived. And I'm like, are you serious right now? Like, why did I do this? But I still love the game. I really can't complain. I mean, the thing about the game that I love so much that we can get to is like, it's the characters, it's deciding who you want to ally with, it's talking to people for like 3 hours about their feelings and their backstories and their parents or whatever nonsense they've got going on. That is all worth it to me. It is a soap opera. Yes. It is Star Trek, but it's more like DS9 flavored than TNG flavored in a lot of ways.
Yeah, so a striking thing, especially about the first Mass Effect, is how, especially playing it on casual, the combat is so clearly filler.
Yes.
And it's like I already said, like we've all said, it's not the strength of the game. Like it's not the thing that made people like the game. And I think these days, like this many years later, if one thing has changed, it's that more people are okay with the idea of a game where the whole game would just be, you're a bit of more of a Picard than you are a Commander Shepard. Like, you don't bring a gun to every situation. It's a lot more, going with Tali to, like, represent her in the trial, which is, like, the most Star Trek shit. How Picard is, like, always the guy who has to go be the lawyer for whoever, like, or represent.
Yeah, but that stuff is awesome.
Yeah, it rules, and it's fun.
Yeah, and that's always the best stuff. Like, those are the most memorable moments. I think there's more appetite for a game that wouldn't even need the combat, as good as the combat became in the later games, where you could just make a like Quantic Dream style or Telltale style version of this. And it's actually kind of surprising that no one did. Like, one thing that sticks out to me this game, and I'm wondering if this is sticking out to the two of you, is the ambition of this series has actually not been matched in this specific way of like telling a 3-part like TV 3-season with like a massive series finale, like with that kind of storytelling ambition. There have been other ambitious games, but no one's tried that since. And I wonder what the two of you make of why that might be.
Well, what game publisher is going to commit to like a 3-game deal before seeing how the first one even performs? I mean, it reminds me of Xenosaga, which is this Japanese series of games that was made by Monolith before they started making Xenoblade, but after Xenogears, which was a success. And the director of the game wanted it to be a 6-part game, and he announced it as like a 6-part epic saga. But like, eventually it got to game 2 and it was like, all right, we just have to end this with 3. And he was not able to realize his dream, his vision, because the games just didn't sell enough to justify a 6-game saga. And I mean, that's what happens in game development. I mean, we've talked about game development's various woes. It's very difficult to say we're going to commit to $400 million to make a trilogy, an epic trilogy.
Yeah. I suppose you don't have to commit though. You can just kind of try it and make the first game and see if it's good and sort of build from there.
Sure, yeah.
I feel like that's almost what Mass Effect 1 does. Like, obviously the game continues, but there's a version of that ending that I feel would work if they just changed a couple things. Like, there's a version of it where you could have the story end at the end of Mass Effect 1 and have it be cohesive. And I feel like it's written that way in part because over the course of development, they were probably like, we might just have this be a one and done. But then obviously the game was going well enough. Maybe they did enough playtesting that they were like, people are going to love this. They're going to love these wacky aliens. They're going to fall in love with them. And they're going to want to hang out with them for 2 more games. And then they just made the ending more open-ended. But it did feel kind of speculative to me. I feel like the only other comparable thing is Dragon Age, obviously, which is just another BioWare game. And when people describe missing BioWare and the original BioWare, like the pre-Anthem BioWare, this is what they mean, I think, is the fantasy novel style of, it's a series, you get to know many characters and a ton of lore about this world, and you care about the world and saving it because you're always saving the world in a video game, no? And that's that's what people miss. I mean, it's what I miss, which is why I'm still playing this video game, even though I think the Saving the World stuff is pretty corny by 2021 storytelling standards. I'm still like, yeah, whatever. It rules to be a character who is awesome, and everybody keeps talking about how awesome I am all the time because I am awesome.
Right. Yeah, Commander Shepard is pretty awesome.
These days, I feel like most game developers, because the stakes are so high, so much higher than they were in 2007, the budgets are so much higher than they were back then, development costs are higher, everything's higher, risks are higher. I think that there are fewer game developers who would be willing to put in budget for a game that is like 8 playable characters, but the player can only control 3, and so the player will not actually get to experience like the bulk of the story, or even just the big choice, like you will permanently lose a character and we have to script and create scenes for like all the different permutations of ways that could happen, because like all that shit is expensive, and I just don't know that there's an appetite for it because the bar has been raised so high for like what publishers and gamers expect for graphical fidelity, that like everything is just so much more expensive to do. On a Mass Effect today, like they probably would have cut half those choices from the final game because it was all just too expensive.
Maybe, yeah. I think it kind of requires maybe rethinking what the game would look like. Like I look at the fact that Netflix, for example, is very excited and interested in getting into making video games, and imagine some not as ludicrously expensive as version, like the one that we're imagining is the ultra polished, that looks like a modern version of this with all this stuff, like Anthem, that kind of thing, like a massive, always on world with characters.
Because that's what fans expect. It's worth noting. Like that's what the expectation is.
Okay, but fans can expect one thing, and someone could give people something that they weren't expecting that's really great. And I could see, like, it feels so much, playing this game feels so much like getting a box set for a show that I really love with like extended scenes. Like the fact that all the DLC is included, there was so much DLC for Mass Effect 2 and now it's all just seamlessly into the game. Like I met Kasumi on the Citadel and she's just right there, and you can do the Lair of the Shadow Broker and like all these really cool stories. And there's a couple of those in Mass Effect 1 that I did too. The one where the asteroid is like heading toward New Terra, and those feel so much like episodes of a TV show. And I remember even at the time being like, this is all I want, is like, I don't want this main narrative to start to speed towards conclusion. Like it is a very sad moment for me in Mass Effect 2 when there's kind of a point of no return in the story. Like I just, it stresses me out. Like I hate that. Like my favorite part of the game is when you're just doing side missions and like having adventures, and each one is like an hour and a half long, and it's like
because it's like you're getting to the final season of your favorite show, and it's like, oh no, this has to end. Oh no, they're killing off my favorite characters. Now this really has
they're
to
going to reveal all the twists that I don't like, and some that I do, and whatever. And I'm very curious how it's going to be playing Mass Effect 3, just because I only finished that game I think once. I had mixed feelings about the ending, but didn't hate it. I'm definitely not a hater. But there's all this DLC to Mass Effect 3. Like there's Mass Effect 3 Omega, where you go back to Omega, and there's like a whole thing with Aria. And like I never played any of it because it was
me either.
Right? It was so final. It was like, well, the game is over. I'm not going to go back now. I played Citadel. I reviewed Citadel for Kotaku, and Citadel is amazing. Like having Citadel before the ending of the game, I would imagine that on its own would like really improve the just feeling of finality to the series. But I'm planning on finishing it, and I'm kind of curious what that'll be like. And it feels so much like watching a DVD box set of a TV show that I have to be like, this can't be the last time this happens. There's no other game series that's quite like this, and I want there to be more just because it's really cool.
Well, so I'm curious, without spoiling too much, obviously there was a massive controversy over the ending of Mass Effect 3. A lot of players felt like it didn't give them any real choice, or like their choices didn't matter in the end. Again, not getting into specifics here, but then BioWare put out was essentially a DLC. I think they called it the Final Cut or something like that changed the ending. I assume that's the version in this game.
It is.
That is like a revised ending. I don't actually remember anything about what they changed or how they changed it, but is it satisfying to people, do you think?
I don't know. I mean, I don't know how I can't speak for people. It's they add some more stuff, but it's not like they changed the ending to be a different ending. Like it's still functionally the same. They just add some stuff to it, so it's like more fleshed out. I watched it. I never actually played it, but I'll be curious to see it all in context. And like the same way that beginning Mass Effect 2 right after Mass Effect 1, like there's the scene where you revisit the Normandy early on in Mass Effect 2, that having just been there in Mass Effect 1 was like much cooler than it having been a few years. Like all of that kind of stuff, or characters that I remember. There's a great scene where Mordin references Captain Kirrahe, who's the Solarian commander on Vermeer. And he gives this speech that you both aren't there yet, but you'll probably remember, where he's like, we held the line. He's like, before there was the silent step, there was the Armada, and we held the line. We'll hold the line. And he gives this, it's a good speech.
It. Yeah, I know what you're talking about.
And Morden is like, I loved working for Kirk. A little bit long-winded. Loved to give a good speech. We must hold the line. And I was like, I remember that guy. I was just there. And
it's amazing because it's like an unskippable cutscene. Like there's some cutscenes where you can kind of like tab through somebody's monologue, but that one is not one of the ones.
No, they're like, you're getting this speech.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of stuff like that where just because I'm playing it all at once, I'm just appreciating it in a different way. And I wonder how the final acts and the sort of ending will feel. I'm going to pretty much just play through this game pretty consistently over the next month or whatever. Like, I wonder what that'll be like.
You're like, screw Final Fantasy VI. I'm going to play through all
Are
of
you
it.
two really not going to tell me who you romanced in these games? We've gone on so long, and you're not coming clean. I told you to. Tell me.
I've played them a lot of times. So I played, it's funny, my like first times through Mass Effect are kind of a blur. Like I played Mass Effect 1 as a dude. It was like before everyone knew that Jennifer Hale's performance was so great as FemShep. And now I like see her as the one true Shepard, basically. I feel so bad for Mark Meer sometimes. Totally good actor. He plays like a Vorcha in Mass Effect 2 and he's great too. He like does all their voices. He's like, I feel like almost no actor has been as unfairly maligned as Mark Meer, and it's just because there's this other great performance.
Well, you say that, but like the stat is like 80% of players are male Shepards, so I don't know if he's like in the real world.
Yeah, but come on, he knows what people say.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of people don't even know that Jennifer Hale is fantastic as the female Shepard, but also like a lot of the voice acting is kind of wooden in Mass Effect 1. Like I know it improves as time goes on, but like there were certainly some moments in there when I was like, no one is really bringing it in this scene. But I think that's partly because it was a game that was doing something so different and there's so much dialogue that you have to deliver that I don't know. I think it's a challenge. So I don't blame Mark Meer. I think he was trying his best.
So no, I don't either. And I've heard he's very good. And then the final scenes actually in Mass Effect 3, that Shepard really has some stuff to work with. And I remember Jennifer Hale just kills me in like the final hours of Mass Effect 3. Like that's one of the reasons that I like the ending of the game, is because she's so good. Like I really came to believe in my Commander Shepard as like this person. So I think of her as my main Shepard, but I played as both, which has different romance options. I'd forgotten that in Mass Effect 1, you can only romance 3 characters. You can only romance Liara, Kaidan, or Ashley. And
That's
so
right.
if you're a female character, like basically it's totally strict, and like Liara can romance male and female characters. So it's basically like you get one option and then like Liara's for both. And like that, it's so limited compared to where this series went, which is also, I think, a reflection of how they were like, oh, people love this shit.
People want to date Garrus? First of all, what's wrong with all of them? But second of all, what isn't wrong with them? Because Garrus is perfect.
I see it. Now that I've just met him in Mass Effect 2, Garrus is hot. I mean, even though I'm with you on him being
even though he's a bird alien, he's still hot.
Right, and he's like got some fascistic tendencies.
A little bit.
But no, he's got so much swagger, and yeah, his voice actor is great. So anyways, I think I romanced Liara. I did Liara again this time through, just because like Kaidan has never been my favorite. He's a very handsome man, but you know, Liara is like just much more of a important character in the run of the series. And then, I don't know, I was Thane all the way in Mass Effect 2 and then Mass Effect 3, which is an incredible story. Yeah. I might do that again, because I was thinking about Garrus, because Garrus is so cool, but then I was kind of like, you know, Garrus, like, I'm not totally on board with you in a sort of similar way.
Yeah.
So I wasn't sure. What about you, Jason?
I don't remember.
Maybe you were
don't know
single.
if I even did. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know if I even did. I just have no memory of but like romance, I've never really cared about romance in these games, unfortunately. I know I have nothing but respect for people who are.
It was such a hot topic with this game, though.
I know, with all the BioWare games, like nothing but respect for people who do care, but like I just has never been for me, the video game romance. I don't think I've ever enjoyed a video game romance, unfortunately. I've wanted to, but
I mean, valid.
Yeah, I just doesn't. And you know what? It's the thing that like I remember trying to get a sex scene in Mass Effect 2. I might have actually, or one of them, maybe 3. I might have actually had Shepard sleep with the navigator, which you can do at one point, or like the receptionist or whatever it is. I don't remember
which is questionable in Mass Effect 2.
Which is extremely questionable. But I remember thinking that the sex scenes themselves are so terrible that it just really
awful.
took me out.
Oh, they're so awkward. I mean,
and I think that always kind of made me wonder, like, why are people so into the romance? But I respect that people are into the characters and like the romance, but it's just like,
I don't think they're into the sex scenes. I feel like they're into the romance for the same reason that people are into the story in the games. Like, just the idea of like having a well-rounded character.
Yes. That's not the point. The point is more that the sex scenes are so ridiculous that they kind of took me out of it.
I know. They really are.
You know, though, it's very interesting to look at how BioWare's developers and writers, directors, like, got better at just scenes of intimacy, and I guess you could call them sex scenes, but they're barely sex scenes, because I always think about the Iron Bull sex scene in Dragon Age Inquisition, which totally different team, but I'm sure a lot of people who learn lessons from Mass Effect, and like how they lean more into humor, like that scene, just to kind of quickly recap it for people, it's like Iron Bull is this big, huge dude, and you know, you can have like, I think male and female characters can like have this liaison with him, and he's great. Freddie Prinze Jr. voices him, who's also actually in Mass Effect 3. And there's just this scene where like you're like post-coital in the bed, and then people keep walking in to give you updates, and then when they walk in, they're like, oh god, I didn't realize, and like, but then soon like everyone is just in the room with you because they keep not leaving, and it's like Iron Bull is just loving it, and you're both kind of like sitting there, and people keep talking, and it's really, really funny. It's like an amazing scene, and it's also like intimate and cute, and like it, like you said, Maddy, it's like great writing for the character, and it's like that's kind of why it's a really good reward for someone who likes Iron Bull and would want to, like, you know, get a really fun scene with him, rather than like the reward being, and now you get to see like his butt or whatever, which is sort of how it feels in Mass Effect 1. It's like, look, Liara's got a blue butt. Like, check it out.
You get to see her side boob or whatever. It's really silly though, because the end of the sex scene, no matter who you sleep with, they wake up naked in bed, and then you're just standing there fully clothed, it's like so on the other side of the room, like, hey, just like watching them sleep, and you're like, hey, that was really good. It's like, oh, what? This is the most awkward thing I've ever seen in my life. Yeah, I had fully clothed sex with Liara, who was completely naked in the game.
Yeah, that's how it works. I guess so, but I think you had asked Maddy your favorite character, and my favorite character was always Mordin, which I think is also, he only comes in Mass Effect 2, if I remember correctly. So I think that's another reason that I just didn't like Mass Effect 1 didn't resonate with me as much. I think Mass Effect 2 is really when I started like loving the cast and like really getting into it. I finished Mass Effect 1 when it came out, but like wasn't as into it as I got into 2.
Yeah, they kind of, there's good writing in Mass Effect 1. The very beginning mission, I remember there's this line, it's when you're talking to, I think it's Kaidan, but it might be Seth Green, to Joker.
Also, one of my favorites, Joker.
Yeah, he does a great job voice acting that.
Yes, Seth Green is excellent.
Yeah, he's great, and he gets a lot more to do. He's very, very good. There's a scene where they're talking about Captain Anderson, and someone just says, like, the guy's got so many medals that he could melt them all down and then make a statue of himself out of them. Like, there's just a lot of, like, fun writing like that was just kind of on a level above most other video games, which had been true of BioWare for a while. So there's this like crackle in the dialogue a lot. There's like inventive writing and just a lot of fun language, just in sort of day-to-day language. But the characters aren't really cracked until Mass Effect 2. And then in Mass Effect 2, it's fully like, okay, now we're going to like apply the same level of care to the characters. And we're going to get, like, that's where all the iconic characters come from. And it's where the characters who were in the first game return and become iconic. Like Garrus's turn, basically, in Mass Effect 2 is like, that's when he becomes an interesting character. I remember finding him so boring in Mass Effect 1 the first time I played him. And then Rex is, I guess, the exception, but that's really just because he has a great voice actor and kind of...
Yeah, that's just his personality also.
Yeah, fun personality. It says Shepard.
I like Rex. I feel like he's interesting. But I always thought the Krogans were just an interesting plotline in general, just because it goes along with the whole idea of just the different alien species having different cultures and the culture clash. I mean, Tali's an interesting character to me for the same reason, where it's like, oh, there's this being who's from a totally different world, looks completely different from you, and you get to learn more about her life and like what her situation is. And I mean, that is the fun part of the games to me. It's not just like, oh yeah, you get to romance like aliens, but it's also like you get to know the aliens and be friends with people who are different from you. And that's the Star Trek-esque message. I mean, it's very corny. I wouldn't necessarily say the game is like really teaching you a lot about bigotry, although I think when it first came out, I thought that. But by today's standards, I'm kind of like, oh, this is very heavy-handed. But it's still enjoyable at some level, nice to be like, okay, yeah, all these different species are working together and they're trying to get along despite how different they are and how their cultures have clashed, or like they're at literal war with one another in other, star systems, and they have to deal with that. Those are the draws.
The Quarians are an interesting one because there are things about their society that I had forgotten, like that the Admiralty Board is able to overrule anything, but once they do, they have to resign, which I just think is like an interesting idea.
There's a lot of stuff like that in the game.
I think it's striking that the story of the Quarians, which is basically we created AI and then they turned on us and destroyed us, and now we're in a ragtag fleet, like trying to survive, is essentially the story of Battlestar Galactica. And that I think that, like, just to put it in the Star Trek timeline here at the end, the way that Battlestar Galactica sort of flipped the script on Star Trek, and of course was created and showrun by Ron Moore, who was like a Next Generation, and also I think one of the other shows. Anyways, he's like a Trek guy who then created Battlestar. Battlestar was way more like moral gray areas, torture, political commentary, like, having to make sacrifices, people dying for real, and all this stuff that Mass Effect was tapping into, rather than the sort of more utopian, the ideas that the Next Generation had been tapping into a decade earlier. And it's interesting to look now at how shows like The Expanse and even Star Trek Picard, they look like Mass Effect. Like, they take a lot of the design, the like floating holo LEDs, the look of the ships. Picard looked a lot like Mass Effect and felt like a Mass Effect game, like assembling a crew and stuff. It's just that it's also got some Star Trek to it, and it's at its strongest when it's more Trekky. Like, looking at the way that sci-fi now is drawing from Mass Effect after Mass Effect was drawing from sci-fi at the time, like, it's a really interesting time capsule for that period, the sort of, I guess, Obama years period of sci-fi. Starting, when they started making the game in 2004, like the late Bush era, and then up till today, and sort of I like kind of pondering what a modern Mass Effect would look like, because Andromeda ain't it, but there's more in that world. Like, there's definitely room for a new one.
Well, we're gonna get one. We're going to get a modern Mass Effect.
Yeah, hard to imagine.
At some point.
It is hard to imagine. Maybe they'll go back in time to like the beginnings.
Like a prequel? The First Contact prequel?
Right.
Yeah.
With the Turians, like the Turian War.
Maybe they'll just call it Mass Effect.
They'll call it The Mass Effect. Oh, man.
The Mass Effect.
Mass Effect Modern Warfare.
Rise of the Mass Effect.
Well, when they do that, we'll be back to talk about it more. And we might wind up doing a Beanscast here down the road on this trilogy, because I think I'm going to finish the whole thing. And Maddy, I think you were saying you might too.
I might, yeah.
That'd be a fun one.
So stay tuned on that. But in the meantime, let's take a break, and we'll be back for one more thing.
I'm Dallas Taylor, host of 20,000 Hertz, a podcast that reveals the stories behind the world's most recognizable and interesting sounds. For instance, the startup sound for the original Xbox was made with 5 basic ingredients.
So now I've got my palette. I've got sawtooth, I've got triangle, I've got white noise, I've got a thunder sound. I actually wrote a little bit of code to reverse it, so now I had a reversed thunder sound, and I had my glockenspiel.
And when you're recording monster sounds for Minecraft, it helps to have the flu.
My throat was shot, and I was like, this is the perfect occasion to make zombie sounds. So I just gurgled into a microphone.
While you're listening to this episode, go over and subscribe to 20,000 Hertz right here in your podcast player. And once this episode's over, I'll meet you over there.
Somewhere between science and superstition, there is a podcast.
Look, your daughter doesn't say she's a demon. She says she's the devil himself.
That thing is not my daughter. And I want you to tell me there's a show where the hosts don't just report on fringe science and spirituality, but take part themselves.
Well, there is, and it's Oh No, Ross and Carrie on Maximum Fun.
This year, we actually became certified exorcists.
So yes, Carrie and I can help your daughter.
Or we can just talk about it on the show.
Oh No, Ross and Carrie on MaximumFun.org.
Are you riddled with guilt over your TBR pile?
Are you filled with shame about a book that you just can't seem to finish?
Are you having regrets because grad school killed your love of reading?
We're Reading Glasses, and we're here to help.
I'm Mallory.
And I'm Bria.
Let us absolve you of all your reading guilt.
Stuck on a book you don't like?
We'll help you dump it.
Can't figure out what to read next?
We'll recommend something in your wheelhouse.
Can't decide where to buy your books from?
We'll point you in the right direction.
No matter what you read or how you read it,
we'll help you do it better.
Reading Glasses, every Thursday on Maximum Fun.
And we're back for one more thing. Jason, why don't you go first?
Oh, man. Okay. I really have to get into this one, so I hope you guys are ready. I've been playing a game called World's End Club, and this game has been out on Apple Arcade for a while, not in its complete form. It ends on kind of a cliffhanger, but the complete game is released on Switch on May 28th. I've been playing an early code provided by the publisher, and this game is wild. Man, I don't even know how to feel about this game. I both love it and hate it at the same time. So this game is written directed by Kotaro Uchikoshi, who is the writer and director of 999 and Zero Escape and that whole series. And the creative director is Kazutaka Kudaka, who is the writer and director of the Danganronpa series. So you would think a game by these two powerhouses would just be incredible, right?
This is like the blind faith of Japanese visual novels.
So this game starts off with this incredible concept. You are trapped, or familiar concept, I should say, but you are trapped in this underwater theme park with a group of kids, and each kid has a wristband on them, and that wristband says what another one of the kids has to do, like a task for them. Like one of them is eat a marshmallow, and if that kid finds the wristband with his task on it, does the task, they get to escape and everyone else dies. So it's like a death game. Everyone is trapped by this cute talking animal, and then half an hour into the game they all break out and suddenly it becomes a road trip. Suddenly becomes a platformer game instead of a visual novel. And it is the worst platformer game I've ever played in my life. Like, it is the least fun platformer mechanics that I've ever played. So it's a game about like a destroyed version of Japan, like a post-apocalyptic world, and there's a lot of like interesting sci-fi concepts and cool plot twists and stuff like that. The stuff you'd expect from a game by the creators of Danganronpa and Zero Escape, but it is also a terrible platformer. And so it is this game where like you are zipping between like action sequences and then story sequences, and the story sequences are really intriguing and interesting despite a few like kind of Japanese cliche quirks. Like there's one kid who's fat or like chubby, and so his whole plot line is that he eats all the time and is obsessed with food. But like aside from that stuff, the story is really interesting and intriguing and explores some interesting themes. And then it's just constantly peppered with these platforming sections that are truly horrible. Each kid in the game gets a superpower, and that superpower is reflected in the platforming sections, and it is just like the most... Oh my god, I can't even describe how bad it is. And in addition to feeling like super clunky and horrible to control and just terrible in every way, it also like pauses every time you get to anything to tell you what to do. It's like they can't even trust you to figure things out. It'll like literally tell you what to do every step of the way. God, it's the worst. And so here's a little bit of an anecdote before I finish this off. So I'm near the end of the game. I just got to this sequence that felt like the climax. And the way that it works is essentially as you go on this road trip, you make choices, and the story branches based on those choices, and you'll see kind of this timeline that's like a stage select screen, and you see like, okay, I went up, I went down. But when you get to this climax at the end of the game, you actually have to go back and revisit all those choices and play through the alternate paths, which means even more platforming. And I was so excited to get to the end of the game, and like I fought this boss that I thought was the final boss, and I'm like, oh my god, no more of this platforming. And then it's like, no, go back and do all the alternate paths.
Sorry, this is a Japanese video game. The final boss is never the final boss.
Oh my god, dude. But it's like the other games that these guys have made don't have like terrible gameplay. It's like
there was a Danganronpa game that was like a first-person shooter, wasn't there?
Oh yeah, but that was a spin-off, and you didn't really have to play it. That's
sort of the same idea, though, where it's like, why are you trying to do this?
But like puzzle solving in these games is usually really good. Like the puzzle solving in the Zero Escape games is mostly good. Puzzle solving in Danganronpa is mostly good, and that's mostly talking anyway. It's like a weird trial section that's pretty fun. But like these games are great. This game is not, and I'm really sad about it because like
it's too bad.
I would not recommend it to anyone because of the platforming. It's so bad that like I would just watch the cutscenes online if you're curious about the story. Like it's that the platforming is that bad.
It's funny that you played so much of it and you didn't
I'm just like so intrigued by the story that every single night I'm like picking up the Switch and like angrily playing through it, and I'm like so frustrated at myself for playing through it. But
amazing.
I'm just so, but the story is good, and like the plot, the characters are really cool and interesting, and there are a lot of good ones, and I like so much about it that it makes it really frustrating how bad the bad parts are. You know, you guys have played games like that where you're so into a part of it that it makes you want to keep playing, but also you get even more frustrated by the awful parts than you would if it was just like, okay, this is a bad game, I'm not going to play anymore. So instead you have to suck up the bad, and it's really, really frustrating, and I hate it so much, but also it's fun.
Nice. All right, Maddy, what's your one more thing?
Sure. Mine is a TV show. It's a Hulu original series. It's 8 episodes. It's called Little Fires Everywhere, and it is based on a book by Celeste Ng. And it stars Reese Witherspoon and Kerry Washington, which in and of itself should recommend the show because they're both just powerhouses, chewing scenery together, bouncing off each other angrily. That should sell it to you, but I will provide more details. It's a thriller. The very opening first shots of the show are that Reese Witherspoon's beautiful suburban mansion is burning to the ground, and she's staring at it in shock. And then for the rest of the 8 episodes, you're like, which character is going to burn Reese's house down? Is it going to be Reese herself? And there's all these different thriller moments where you're like, well, this person would certainly be motivated to do it, or oh, well, what about this person? And then but it takes you back in time to Kerry Washington being just this single mother on the run. Seems like she's homeless. Reese Witherspoon sort of takes pity on her and is like, oh, I'll rent you this apartment at like a reduced rate. And they have all these awkward, like kind of racist conversations. And you're like, oh, well, I get why Kerry Washington might not like Reese Witherspoon. But then a series of continuously absurd, increasingly absurd thriller events happen that I don't even know how to spoil because this show is so unpredictable and includes so many family dramatic twists that I don't know how to describe it, but it ruled, and it's about motherhood and grief and a bunch of other like unsettling themes, but it's also just cool. So yeah, I recommend it. It's a good show.
Yeah, it's only 8 episodes and then it's over. That's like the biggest. I'm
Love
sold. I'm gonna go watch it. Yeah, I'm gonna go watch it this weekend.
Enjoy. Yeah, I'm all about the new limited series trend.
Little Fires Everywhere. Yeah, I'm into
Little Fires Everywhere.
Nice. Yeah, I've heard good things, but that's cool to hear. My one more thing is Subnautica Below Zero, which is a game that I have been playing now that it's in 1.0 after completing Subnautica the first, which is just called Subnautica.
Oh, you finished that? I didn't realize that you finished the whole game. Oh, okay.
Yeah,
cool.
I played a lot of it. I really liked that game a lot. So I said at the time when I think it was one more thing, I was like, I'll talk about it more. And then I did something else for my one more thing later. So I did finish Subnautica, and now I'm playing Below Zero just because I really liked it. It's a great time to be discovering Subnautica and to really like it because there's 2 full games, one of which is a lot smaller. Below Zero is a lot smaller. Bing! Kirk from the future here, interrupting myself just to give the summary that I, for some reason, didn't give during this one more thing. Subnautica is basically an underwater crafting game. I did talk about it just a few weeks ago, but just in case you didn't hear that episode, you swim around under the ocean, you craft stuff, you craft more stuff, you make a new truck, you get in the truck, you craft compartments for the truck. It's a crafting and exploration, and there's sort of a story that you uncover on this alien world where you're underwater. That's what Subnautica is. It's really cool, but okay, back to past Kirk. Take it away. Bing! I do like Below Zero. They've changed some stuff from Subnautica that I don't love. This is a kind of a common opinion, but they've added more story. There's a voiced protagonist, which is not really my favorite, even though I get what they're trying to do. And I also like how they've increased the diversity, basically. There's more specificity to it, and it makes the game just feel better. It feels more like it's real people, in a real place.
Can you back up a second? Is this a totally new game, or is it taking Subnautica and doing something different with it? How does this relate to the first game?
So it's just like Subnautica, but smaller. It was initially, I believe, planned to be a DLC, and so it's just a person returning to the same planet as you landed on in Subnautica, where you swam around under the water.
So different story in the same setting.
Yes, and a lot of the same, Carrie, it's like a sequel. Imagine it as a DLC that just got too big, and they released it as a standalone.
Got it. Okay.
And then they changed a bunch of stuff in the process. There's a lot of streamlining, which is good. It's more user-friendly. You don't have to figure out what you're doing quite as much. There's just little quality of life things that are really nice. You get crafting and making stuff a lot faster, which is cool. But it's also, I don't know, there's something that I like about the shagginess of the original game, where you're just kind of playing and it takes you a long time to even figure out that there is a story, but then there really is one, and it's this really neat process of exploration and discovery that goes on for over this huge amount of space and depth and, over time, where this game is much more like, here's the narrative, you're looking for this person, your character is kind of talking a lot, like there's places you find, there's other actual characters in the game who talk to you and stuff. Like it has a much more, high budget feel, which makes sense because they made a lot of money from the first game. And they're working on a proper sequel that I would imagine is going to take a lot of these ideas and refine on them more. My main hope for the sequel is that they back off a little bit of the story stuff. Like, I like how they're adding more characters. It's certainly nice that it's presenting a more diverse view, world. It's cool how they've streamlined things. I just think there could be more space for the player and, a little more room for just not knowing what to do and sort of feeling lost and screwing around and experimenting. I don't want them to go so slick that the sequel is this, really, smooth, frictionless experience, because part of the joy of the game is just cruising around underwater and finding stuff and feeling kind of lost and overwhelmed. That's a really big part of it, and that's a little less present in Below Zero, even though it's still great. And especially having just played the first game, it's cool to play something a little different after playing the first game. And it's also cool knowing they're working on more these games. They're cool. They're really, really nice in a way that I wasn't expecting. So.
Oh man. Yeah, Subnautica's on my list. It's on my to-play list.
They're pretty neat. And, if you do only have a little bit of time and you just kind of want to see what it's about, you could do worse than playing Below Zero. It's shorter, it's more contained, it's more streamlined. So it's kind of
But is it hard to go back to the first one after doing the streamlined stuff of the second one?
I think you could do it, but there are definitely things where you'd be like, oh my God, you can't pin recipes in this. This is so much harder. But I mean, you could. I think it's a more natural to go the other way. But if you don't have that much time, there's it's not a bad idea to start with Below Zero.
How many hours did it take you to finish the first Subnautica?
20-something, probably, maybe.
Oh, okay, that's not terrible.
Yeah,
no, you could play it a lot more. It's a base building game. You could build a crazy thing, and there's a bunch of stuff I didn't see, but I did finish it, and it's really cool. The story and the ending is really cool. It's worth finishing. Mm-hmm. But
the problem, I was thinking to myself, how do these guys how do you both have time to finish almost finish Mass Effect, or how do you have time to play so much stuff? In Kirk's case, finish Subnautica, and then I realized, oh yeah, I every time I'm playing a game, interrupt it to go play StarCraft 2 for an hour, and then go back to it. And I'm oh right, that's how I don't play.
What could it be?
Else.
What could the problem?
I thought you were going to talk about your baby, but it's StarCraft 2 that's calling you,
that's
really crying out to you, and being like, Jason.
Well, because she'll take a nap. She'll take a nap for 3 hours, and I'll be like, all right, I'm going to get some gaming in, and then I wind up playing StarCraft 2 for an hour and a half, and I'm
it's
completely understandable. It's a great game.
It's still gaming.
Yep.
All right, well, that'll do it for this episode. Stay tuned for the Beans cast that'll be in the feed next week, and we'll be back next week with more Triple Click. I'll see both of you then.
See ya.
Bye.
Triple Click is produced by Jason Schreier, Maddy Myers, and me, Kirk Hamilton. I edit and mix the show and also wrote our theme music. Our show art is by Tom DJ. Some of the games and products we talked about on this episode may have been sent to us for free for review consideration. You can find a link to our ethics policy in the show notes. Triple Click is a proud member of the Maximum Fun Podcast Network, and if you like our show, we hope you'll consider supporting us by becoming a member at MaximumFun.org/join. Find us on Twitter at TripleClickPod, send email to tripleclick@MaximumFun.org, and find a link to our Discord in the show notes. Thanks for listening. See you next time.
MaximumFun.org.
Comedy and culture.
Artist owned. Audience supported.